Starting things off in at number 10 with the Thomas Busby's chair, otherwise known as the death chair or dead man's chair. I mean, this doesn't seem like a piece of furniture that I would want in my house, but maybe that's just me. This chair is supposedly cursed, and anyone who dares to sit on this chair will die shortly after. Let me give you guys a brief background on this killer chair. A man named Thomas Busby murdered his father-in-law back in 1702. For his awful crimes, he was executed by hanging, but it is believed that a chair was present at the execution carried a curse, and whoever sat on it will die from an unspeakable accident. The chair remained in a hotel for many years until the owner gifted it to a museum. The museum owner wanted to display the chair, but obviously he didn't want anyone to sit on it, so now this cursed chair is hung high up on the wall where no one can touch it. We have another cursed painting here at number 7. The Hands Resist Him painting is another piece of artwork that I definitely wouldn't want in my house. I mean, just take a look at this thing. Is this real life right now? What is with the crying children? I don't find this comforting or visually pleasing to look at. Well, this cursed painting has been terrifying people for decades, and I'll tell you why. The painting was put up on auction on eBay back in February of 2000. According to the seller, the painting carried some kind of curse. They said that the characters in the painting would move at night, and that they would sometimes leave the painting and enter the room where it was being displayed. But people also believe by just looking at the painting, you feel extremely ill or have a really unpleasant experience. The Bassano vase comes crashing in onto this list at number 6. No one knows where this curse originated from or how this vase came to be so powerful, but it is believed that this vase contains a terrible curse, and anyone who comes into possession of it will be doomed and die shortly after. Even with this curse, the vase was auctioned off for about $2,250, and the person that bought it died within just 3 months. 3 more deaths of the new owners followed until finally a desperate family demanded that the police take it and seal it up forever. The woman from Lem statue brings us to number 3. This limestone statue is also known as the Goddess of Death because anyone who comes into contact with this mysterious statue will die from unknown causes. I mean, wow, let's break this statue and bury it deep in the ground where it belongs, and we shouldn't mark it. And did I mention that every family who possessed this statue died? I mean, yeah. And one of the families were so scared by the strange deaths, so they decided to donate the statue to the Royal Scottish Museum in Edinburgh, where it actually remains there today. So shortly after the statue was placed in the museum, the people who came into close contact with it died. No one has handled this statue since because of its scary supernatural powers. This item is actually placed behind a strong glass and locked where no human hands can touch it.
Number 10. Little Bastard. The Porsche 550 that ended up being the coffin for the Rebel Without a Cause star James Dean. This thing was a sleek beauty and anyone would have loved to own it. It was such a dragster it was almost guaranteed that you would end up dead in it. This car didn't only kill James Dean. After James Dean met his end in the fatal crash, the car was put in a garage and some thieves came to steal it. Each one of them was injured in the process, with one of the thieves getting crushed by the engine. After this happened, the car was broken up and sold for parts. You think in separate pieces the whole curse would have been a lot less strong. Well, you thought wrong. All the cars that received parts from the Porsche 550 ended up getting into accidents. Sometimes people survived, sometimes they didn't. I don't know what James was doing with this car that pissed it off so much. Maybe the car saw him driving another car and then got jealous and then never could trust another driver again. Just a classic tale of heartbreak. Number 9. Gettysburg Rocks. Wow, you can really put a curse on anything. Next thing you know, there's going to be the cursed winds of Manitoba. These rocks have a little bit of history behind them. They come from Gettysburg Field, where the Battle of Gettysburg happened. It was back in 1863, where a bunch of dudes died by musket and by bayonet, and now all their ghosts are probably chilling there. I wonder if there's ghosts from opposite sides and they still hate each other. Or they're like, dude, I'm so sorry for stabbing you in the neck, man. That was so rude of me. Well, I guess the ghosts who chill there are pretty protective, because if you take one of these rocks from the field home, be prepared to have your life fall apart in the worst ways. From what I've researched, this curse won't kill you, but your life will unravel and you might wish you were dead. One guy had his wife and kids walk out on him and then he got locked up in prison. So I don't know how much you like rocks, but I don't think these guys are worth it. Number 8. King Tut's Tomb. I think it's funny how if I go to a cemetery at night and start digging up bodies for some simple arts and crafts, it's called grave robbing and everybody thinks I'm crazy. But when an archaeologist does it, it's called science and preserving history. But for real, you're not gonna catch me digging up any old bodies anytime, ancient or otherwise. Especially when the really old ones have curses on them. That pretty much ensures an early death. King Tut was dug up in 1922 and it was considered an incredible find and everyone was super pumped. I can imagine everyone involved received 10 to 12 high fives that day. But their happiness soon turned into sadness because the people involved in the dig all started dying. Whatever black magic was thrown over this dead body had a very inventive imagination because people were dying in all sorts of ways. Some got murdered while others killed themselves. I think my favorite is the guy who died from an infected mosquito bite. There should be a tagline on these things like open the tomb and meet your doom. I'm gonna trademark that before anyone takes it. Number 5. The Gem of Sorrow. More rocks that are trying to kill you. At least this one's shiny. This little demon stone was taken from India in the 19th century when the British were taking over India. The British were ruthless and basically killed as many people as they could and took whatever they wanted just as long as they could keep the country intact enough for them to still live there. You know, British Empire stuff. Well, one dude named W. Ferris took something that he shouldn't have. He thought it was a blue sapphire, but it was just a gemstone, and it ended up making him very ill and killed some of his family. So he gave it to a friend who then committed suicide. Now it's tucked away in a museum. Number 4. Virginia City Headstones. Okay, once again guys, don't take things away from graveyards. I was just joking earlier about the grave robbing. You're gonna go to a place where they keep dead bodies? Even if you're someone of science and you don't believe in superstitions at all, you at least need to be grossed out by the hygiene level. Ugh. It seems like there's a lot of dirty people out there because the old cemetery in Virginia City, Nevada gets stuff stolen from it all the time. Like people steal everything from headstones to just rocks. But everything that you take from this place comes at a price. The curses range from getting sick to having all the people around you die. Definitely not worth it. People will often return what they've taken back to the spot they took it from because they can't handle the bad mojo that was just dropped on themselves. Sometimes they leave warning notes, which is so thoughtful. Number 3. The Terracotta Army. The army built in beautiful terracotta to protect a king in the afterlife after he died. You must have made a lot of enemies if you need an army to protect you after you died. If I died today, I would only need like 1 or 2 terracotta warriors. The army was discovered by a group of farmers, and they were probably so pumped to make this discovery, but little did they know it was probably the worst thing that had ever happened to them. I bet there was one guy who was at home with diarrhea, and today he's so happy for the liquid poops that came out of him. 2 farmers that were involved in the dig died very young, and another one committed suicide to save his family from the disease that was killing him. I think this is a tourist attraction that I'll skip. Number 2. Pompeii. Pompeii is the city that got turned into ash in an instant by a volcano, and has that dude that decided to bust a nut in his last moments. Imagine being remembered for thousands of years as the jerk-off guy. There was a kid I grew up with who people called Poonie because one time he slipped and his knee went in poo. Imagine if he was Poonie for his whole life and beyond. The legend says that the volcano destroyed Pompeii because a curse from the gods. Now people go there and take things and the curse goes home with them, and every year thousands of items are sent back with apology notes. Alright guys, I'm coming in at number 1 with Timur's curse. Timur was a ruler in the 1400s who was said to be hella ruthless and took no crap from anyone. After he died, he was buried, and it said that his tomb was cursed, and whoever opened it would have major bad mojo. What makes this curse so famous is that people think it affected World War II. Stalin thought it would be a good idea to dig up Timur because the curse is supposed to unleash an enemy even worse than Timur himself. Well, Stalin got what he wished for, because the day after he dug up the old mummy, Hitler did his surprise invasion on Russia. Oh baby, be careful what you wish for. This was the most brutal day in the war. 800,000 Soviets died that day. Stalin, what were you thinking, comrade? Well, eventually Stalin ordered to have Timur buried again, and it wasn't long after that the Soviets pushed back against the Germans and defeated their troops. Was it a curse, or was it just how things happen? I don't know.
Starting us off at number 10 is the China set. Sort of anticlimactic, I know, but I feel like the backstory of this one more than makes up for it. 3 pieces of the set were found in a wad of old newspapers under the porch of a house made sometime in the early 1900s. It had clearly been there for a long ass time since it was covered by a bunch of decayed dirt and so the homeowner kind of just put it on their windowsill and forgot about it. A few weeks later, one of his old neighbors walked by and noticed the china and asked him where he got them, saying they looked really similar to a set another neighbor used to own. Now the other neighbor was a Mrs. Dillon who used to get beaten by her husband, and then one day out of nowhere her husband just wound up dead. Mrs. Dillon then became very reclusive and quickly moved away without telling anyone, not even her friends. The homeowner appreciated the story, but low-key didn't really care until the next morning. They found the set inside their house when they damn well never brought it inside. Both cups even had tea in them, like can you imagine? They quickly put the set in a shoebox and left it outside, and it was picked up by somebody else. That someone admitted that the first time they ever cleaned and wiped it down, there were 3 or 4 dips in the lights above them. And every time they've cleaned it after that, the same thing always happens. The lights keep dimming. It ended up being sold to this person for $45, but I honestly think Mrs. Dillon killed her husband, then left the set behind, and now the spirit of her disgusting husband just cursed the set. But, plot twist, in his afterlife he realized what a horrible person he was, so to make up for that he just fills cups with tea. I don't know if that makes up for being a husband, but okay.
At number 9, we have a haunted clown doll. This sounds like the crossover no one asked for. Clowns and ghosts on their own are bad enough, but now we're packing them together in one complete package. This is like mixing a kick in the nuts with a slap in the face. It's rude and painful. Well, if you're trying to ruin your own life, then you should look this one up. You can find it on eBay for $200. So next month, why don't you skip on paying your car insurance and then put a down payment on a cursed doll that will probably make you have nightmares about being strangled to death by balloons. You know, if you buy something like this and horrible things happen to you, you kind of deserve it. Instead of trying to invite Satan into your home, why don't you take your money and invest it in a nice retirement savings plan? If you make the poor financial choice of investing in this doll, you can hope to be haunted by the 2 dead children who apparently wake you up by shaking your bed. These ghosts haunt the doll. So not only will your life be full of demonic forces, you'll get those puffy eyes that show the public how distressed you are.
Coming in at number 8 now is the bra, and yes, I am fully serious, I assure you. Now this bra was actually made in the 50s and it's a size 32A, and I feel like a lot of guys just don't actually know what that means, so I'm about to tell you. Now the number stands for the inches around a girl's bust, so the circumference essentially, and the letter is the size of the cup part itself. You're welcome. Now, according to the seller of this item on eBay, Tonya_Rose, the bra is afflicted with the spirit of a sexy woman, and still not joking. Wearing it will give the person a constant stream of gifts and admiration, and you can actually reap benefits from it even if you don't wear it. If you place the bra by a lit white candle, you can actually see the woman's full body apparition right in front of you, and if it's a red candle, you can engage more explicitly with that apparition. I don't even know how that would go or who proved that that happens. I feel like some people will see this as a curse and others as a blessing, so I mean, to you, boo.
At number 7, we have an African gula chest. At first glance, this thing looks like art your aunt would pick up after she reads a book about African history. Wow, Aunt Claire, you can really tell how you support African culture by the chest you bought that was made in China. But if you dive into the description of this a little further, you can see that this is not what it seems. Apparently a gula chest is a wooden urn with carvings in it that is used to house the soul of a demon. The perfect housewarming gift for a new couple. This one I found on eBay and was the home of a ghoul jinn, a spirit which is supposed to be really bad. They like to mess your life up and cause all sorts of havoc. So if there's someone in your life who you really don't like, then you should buy them this urn and have it sent to their home. The person selling this chest is a satanic priest, so you know this thing is legit. This isn't any bootleg gula chest, this is the real deal. Upon purchase, the priest will send you instructions with the chest detailing everything about the spirit which is attached to it and how to handle it. I'm sure this is just like getting a fish. Watch a few YouTube videos and you'll be fine. A big note on this one is there are no returns. Once you buy this thing, there is no takebacks. Once it is yours, unless you leave it on someone's doorstep.
At number 6 now is an African voodoo hoof rattle. Now this one actually links in with Che's African gula chest because they're both being sold by the same damn satanic minister on eBay. Now the hoof rattle is a whopping 9 inches long and there's only one like it in the whole world. Now Reverend Dante refuses to go into detail about exactly why it's cursed, he just says he finds it very unsettling. And if a satanic minister finds something unsettling, then you know something is very wrong with it, because even frickin' Satan couldn't scare him. Satan was a walk in the park for this guy compared to this voodoo hoof rattle. And I'm assuming because it's a voodoo rattle, it has all like the bad juju associated with said voodoo, because I mean, let's face it, if you're in possession of a voodoo item, your haters are just gonna be dropping like flies. Just innocently. Well, I don't know what happened. Just dropped like flies. Either way, missed me with that.
At number 5, we have the Crying Boy painting. If you're into collecting cursed items, this one will definitely be one you have in your storage room. Well, until it burns down. This painting has one of the most depressing histories to it. Artist Bruno Amadio saw a boy crying on the side of a step. Bruno was moved by the child, so he decided to find out why he was sad and had such a heavy burden in his heart. No, I'm just kidding. He set up shop and started painting the kid. Then he had the painting printed and started selling it, making great profits off the back of this broken child. Then the people who bought this painting had their homes burned to the ground. Apparently the child who was sad and crying alone with no one there to help him just had his family die in a house fire. The sorrow from this boy's soul now cursed the painting, and anyone who buys it has their home burned to the ground. There's even a rumor that after your home burns down, the painting is the only thing left standing. So next time someone sees a kid crying on the side of the street, maybe stop and give them a little help instead of trying to capture the moment for a quick buck.
Filling our number 4 slot is the jewelry box, and I know jewelry boxes are always just haunted or cursed, but this one is different. Again, the bio of every boy on Tinder, and plot twist, they are not different. Either way, this one is an antique jewelry box with a clock inside of it, so when you open it, the clock sort of just gets lifted up like this, and the jewelry part is like a little drawer underneath, and I hope you got what I meant from all my miscellaneous gesturing. Now the Utah-based owner shared that the clock stops at 3:22 a.m. constantly, and by now we know that the 3 to 4 a.m. window is witching hour, people. Not a good time. Now the lid of the box opens by itself all the time and weirdly enough almost sucks up jewelry. The owner said there have been times where she hasn't put jewelry in the box, but overnight it somehow just ended up inside of it. But then on other occasions she's woken up and the jewelry is just all over the floor like the box threw it out like it has a mind of its own. So if that sounds appealing to you, it can be yours for a mere $160 US.
At number 3, we have a Victorian birthing chair. Another gem from the world of eBay. If any of you at home are doing exactly what I did and are asking what the hell is a Victorian birthing chair, then let me just tell you, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a big old chair with a hole in it that you can give birth through. Think of it as a toilet if you wanted to poop on your kitchen floor. Back in the day, a lady would sit down in this and then shoot a baby right onto the linoleum. Apparently, this particular birthing chair is embedded with all the torment of who knows how many ladies giving birth on it. I think that's a top-notch way to curse an item. Just have people use it while they're going through the most painful experience of their lives. The owner says some women died in childbirth while on this chair, raising the spooky factor at least 10 points. And if you're wondering how much it's going to cost you to curse your future with the angry spirits of dead women going through labor, it's $300. So right now you can pick up a PlayStation VR headset or a chair stained with placenta fluid. You know, this is a really tough choice. Is there any chance I could call a friend or ask an audience member? Where's Regis filming? And finally in the number 1 spot we have Eve, another haunted doll. Do you think demons are attracted to dolls because they're creepy, or are dolls creepy because demons are attracted to them? It's kind of like a chicken or the egg situation. If you're not creeped out by Eve's appearance, then maybe the backstory will be enough to set you over the edge. Eve has the spirit attached to her. It's the soul of a young girl. This girl found her lover sleeping with her sister, killed them both, and then killed herself. Her soul is now forever tormented by being betrayed, and she is now dead, of course. The person selling this doll is very eager to get rid of it because she is kept up at night from the doll crying. Heartbreak takes a long time to get over. She also said the doll causes her physical pain like headaches, but that could be because she's just not getting enough sleep. And if you're one of the brave ones out there who want to buy Eve, you should know that she's selling for $1,666. Whoa, what a spooky price. I like how the seller added that extra 1 at the beginning. She was like, I want to get rid of this haunted doll, but I'm also not a sucker.
Starting off this list at our number number 10 spot, we have the Belcourt Castle chairs. Belcourt Castle is located in Newport, Rhode Island, and it is a former summer cottage. Construction on the cottage started in 1891, with it being completed in 1894, and inside there is a ballroom. This ballroom is important because it is said that it holds a group of haunted chairs. People who have visited the castle have reported a ton of strange happenings regarding this specific set of chairs. The report includes things like feeling chills racing up and down their spines, or feeling a strange sensation in a shift of energy while standing near the chairs, and some people have even explained how they have been pushed out of the chairs by an invisible force. I feel like just hearing these stories might be enough to explain the energy shift some people are feeling, but actually being pushed out of a chair by some sort of invisible force would be absolutely terrifying. And simply unexplainable. What's going on there? In our number 9 spot today, we have The Orphan Story. This is a book that was originally written in the early 1600s, but it didn't end up getting published until 2018. The Orphan Story is about a 14-year-old Spanish boy who heads to the Americas. You know, a classic kind of coming-of-age feel-good story, right? Well, not exactly, and that is exactly the reason it took so long for this book to be published. While the curse in this book doesn't come from the story itself, there is something dark lurking in those pages. The book's publisher, Belinda Palacios, who worked on the book for 2 years, explained that throughout those years she was often warned of the cursed book, and how every publisher who had tried to work on it before ended up passing away in a mysterious way before they could finish the book. When Belinda looked into this, it turned out to be true. Her research showed that those who had tried to edit the book before her either found themselves in horrible accidents or with strange illnesses. Luckily, Belinda made it through the process unscathed, so let's hope that maybe the curse has been lifted. Either way, it's probably one I'll personally stay away from. In our number 8 spot today, we have the Dybbuk box. This box, which was originally just a plain old wine box, is said to have been possessed by a Dybbuk, which in Jewish mythology is a malicious demon that takes over the bodies of living people and uses them for evil. The box began to gain attention in 2001 when it was being auctioned off on eBay. The seller explained that he had bought it at an estate sale of a woman who had survived the Holocaust. When he first opened the box, he found 2 1920s pennies, a lock of blonde hair bound with a cord, a lock of black or brown hair bound with a cord, a small statue engraved with the Hebrew word shalom, a small golden wine goblet, 1 dried rosebud, and a single candle holder with 4 octopus-shaped legs. Since he bought the box, he reported that strange things began happening, such as really horrific nightmares for him and anyone who had stayed around or touched the box, and when he gave this box to his mother as a birthday gift, she suffered a stroke the same day. The box ended up in the hands of Zach Bagan, who is a paranormal investigator, and it now resides in his haunted museum. The box also gained even more attention in 2018 when Post Malone touched it and has apparently been dealing with the repercussions of that ever since. In our number 7 spot today, we have the Iceman. Okay, this one is not an object because it is rather a mummy who was once a real living person, but I still had to include him on this list because this story is wild. The mummy of Otzi, who is referred to as the Iceman, was found in 1991 in the Otzal Alps in Italy. It is believed that Otzi lived around 3000 BC, and his body became mummified and preserved because of the glacier that surrounded him post-mortem. While this is an incredibly interesting discovery, the finding of Otzi may have come in a package with an old curse just waiting to be released. Here's the thing, the people who helped with the discovery of Otzi are all dying under very mysterious circumstances. I mean, we are currently at person number 7 within 1 year, so that's very suspicious. When molecular archaeologist Tom Loy was writing a book about Otzi, he passed away from a blood-related condition that he was diagnosed with shortly after becoming involved with the Iceman. The German tourist Helmut Simon, who discovered the mummy, fell to his death while hiking in the same spot he saw Otzi. Dieter Warneck, who was the head of the mountain rescue team that was assigned to find the mummy, died of a heart attack at age 45, just an hour after Simon's funeral. To avoid this becoming an hour-long list, I'll stop here, but that is just half of those who seemingly fell victim to the curse of the Iceman. I don't know, maybe disturbing a man who's been in the same spot for 53 centuries wasn't the best idea anyone's ever had. bad. In our number 6 spot today, we have The Anguished Man. This is a painting that holds many secrets, the first two being when and who created it. This painting comes from an unknown source and it is absolutely eerie. It depicts exactly what the name would suggest, a man looking like he is in great pain and suffering. The painting is apparently made of a mixture of paint and blood, and it is said that the creator ended up taking his own life shortly after making it. Because of the unknown origins and this little tale that goes along with it, the painting already gives off some extremely creepy energy, but if that wasn't enough, the man who currently owns the painting claims that it is haunted. He even uploads YouTube videos of the strange happenings around the painting, and it's said that sometimes whispers can be heard coming from it. Whatever is going on with this painting, it's not good. In our number 5 spot today, we have the ballista balls. A ballista was used in the Roman military and it was kind of similar to a crossbow, but was much larger and could shoot arrows or stones. In 1989, there was archaeologists that were working by the Israeli-Syrian border when they found these large stones close to what seemed to be the remains of a ballista, but around 1995, the stones ended up getting stolen, but it took a while for anyone to notice. Fast forward to 2015, and the same stones that were stolen ended up in the courtyard of the museum in Israel with a note left from the person who stole them. The note explained that ever since they took them, he had experienced terrible luck and believed the stones were the reason. He had a very successful business that suddenly began to fail after he took the stones, and later his family abandoned him and he was forced to get rid of almost all of his possessions to settle all of his debts so as to not go bankrupt. He mentioned that he believed the stones were cursed and that they were the root of all of his problems. Whether or not these stones are actually cursed or this was just some pretty heavy karma, I hope this guy has been able to get his life back on track. In our number 2 spot today, we have Old Nick. Old Nick is often referred to as the Swansea Devil, and his story dates back to the 1890s, although he now resides in the Swansea Museum. So, back in the 1890s, there was the prestigious St. Mary's Church located right in the center of town. The church decided to do some renovations and they put out some ads to hire someone. When a local builder applied for the job and was turned down, he had a major overreaction and decided he wanted to get some kind of revenge. He went and bought the row of cottages that lay next to the church and then demolished them all. In their place, he built large brick offices and then he commissioned the carving of Old Nick and placed him right on top of the office building looking down at St. Mary's Church. Legend goes that he even placed the curse himself by saying, "When your church is destroyed and burnt to the ground, my devil will remain laughing." Some years later, during World War II, a German blitz came through the town and it left most of the town, including St. Mary's, completely destroyed and burnt to the ground. But the office building with Old Nick was undamaged and remained standing. For a while, Old Nick seemed to kind of disappear, but once he resurfaced, there was a petition to put him back where he was before, as well as a subsequent counter petition to put him far, far away from the rebuilt St. Mary's Church. As of now, Old Nick resides behind glass in the Swansea Museum, and it is said that he is enclosed in glass more for our protection than his. In our number 1 spot today, we have the Blarney Stone. For hundreds of years, the Blarney Stone has resided within Blarney Castle, which is near Cork, Ireland. The stone is a piece of limestone, and legend says that those who give the stone a smooch will then be given the gift of gab. This little smooch can bestow the power of being able to talk your way out of any situation, which would be incredibly useful, but there are always those who try to indulge in too much of a good thing. The issues start when you attempt to take a piece of the stone, no matter how small, away from its home. Those who don't follow the rules and take the stone end up being cursed with bad luck. Every year the castle receives parcels from greedy tourists who tried their luck at stealing portions of the stone. These parcels are returned with the intention of lifting the curse of misfortune. It is said that once the stone is returned, the curse will be lifted, which is most definitely good news. I guess the moral of this curse, however, is to not be greedy and just follow the rules.
Number 8. Cursed phone number. The song 8675309 has been stuck in my head for about 18 years now. That song is a banger. Honestly, great jingle too. If a pizza place had thought of that jingle at first, would have been game over if you ask me. A cursed phone number. Is there such a thing? Apparently, yes. 359-888 and then a bunch of 8s afterwards. I don't want to say it out loud, you know? So what's the deal here? Well, anybody who's had this phone number in the last 20 years or so has met their fate almost immediately after. CEO of a Bulgarian phone company, cancer at 48, that's how he passed away. 2 criminals later on, both a little more mysterious than cancer, they both passed away afterwards. All these deaths happened within 4 years. That's the cursed aspect of it all. The phone number was suspended, so nobody's able to use it now. In case you're thinking about it, don't do it. Maybe it's because of this curse, or maybe it has ties to crime. Either way, 8675309 is still stuck in my head. I'm gonna go down with that song right as soon as we're done here. Number 6, Baker's wedding dress. Why is it in so many horror movies that the ghost is always a lady in a white dress? Why are there so many ghosts in nightgowns? What's going on? Why are you all so sleepy? Maybe they're taken out before their wedding night over a vase, or maybe it's this one. Back in 1849 in the small town of Altoona, Pennsylvania, Elias Baker and his wife Hetty lived in the Baker mansion. They had 2 sons and 1 daughter named Anna. Anna had fallen in love with one of her father's employees, another steel worker, but after her father wouldn't allow the relationship to take off, classic, Anna vowed to never marry anybody, and she locked herself away in her room. Now when her father passed away in 1848, she went to go find her true love again, but he had since settled down with somebody else. So she spent the rest of her days behaving erratically, and her soul still haunts that same wedding dress today, the wedding dress she never ended up using. Not just the dress, the mansion is haunted as well. Guests would report furniture moving around by itself. Honestly, it's not a bad haunting if you ask me. Moving couches? That would be a great help. I have a terrible back. I would love that. Number 4, the Hope Diamond. Coming from the 1660s, this curse began when a gem dealer named Jean-Baptiste Tavernier bought this large diamond when visiting India. He bought it, apparently. Okay. The origins of the diamond were unknown, but it didn't matter. This beauty was just sitting there and he had to. Well, later on, after Tavernier got the diamond, rumors spread throughout Europe and the United States that Tavernier actually stole the diamond from the statue of a Hindu goddess. The newspapers actually kicked this one off by publishing the Hope Diamond as an ancient curse. The diamond at one point ended up in the hands of King Louis XVI and his wife Marie Antoinette. Now, if you don't know about them in history, they lost their lives during the French Revolution. We'll say that. The old guillotine dream team. The stone then went to Lord Francis Hope come 1839, and by that point it was deemed cursed officially. This is when it got the name, the Hope Diamond, right? They ended up selling the diamond shortly after being reduced to poverty. Then Evelyn Walsh McLean bought the stone in 1912. Shortly after, her son was killed in a car accident. So just bad news all around. When the stone was delivered to its final and current home, the Smithsonian, back in 1958, the driver delivering the package was later hit by a truck. He survived, but shortly after, his house caught fire. Moral of the story, you don't need diamonds for more reasons than one. Number 2, broken mirrors. It doesn't matter who you are, you've heard of this one at some point. You break a mirror and what do you get? Bad luck. You get 7 years of bad luck. Has this happened to you? If so, what year are you on? Are you close? How close are you to the 7-year mark? We got your back. You got this. You're so close. Ancient Romans kicked this one off. They believed that the human soul would renew every 7 years. That's where the whole 7-year thing comes into play. It takes time to repair the human soul, apparently. That combined with the belief that a mirror's reflection was a way into the soul, well, now we have one guy who feels really bad for breaking a mirror, essentially. Therefore, a curse. If you break a mirror, you're tearing the soul from the body and abandoning it. In Kazakhstan, if you break a mirror, evil spirits would haunt the person responsible for the damage. That's a pretty scary deal. You gotta keep those hands grippy. They say you can't look into broken mirror pieces afterwards, or else that's bad luck in itself. There's too many mirrors now, honestly, cut to today. I'm sure ancient Romans had no idea what 2022 would look like. We have phone cases with mirrors in them now. That's a lot of bad luck in jean pockets, my friends. And coming in number 1, curse of the Billy Goat. Can a team be cursed? Is that such a thing? Here we go. I mean, I live in Toronto, home of the Maple Leafs, and we don't see a lot of wins on that side, but the Chicago Cubs curse, well, that was a huge deal for a very long time. The Chicago Cubs curse comes from 1945, when a man named Bill Sionis, nicknamed Billy Goat, he was kicked out of a Chicago Cubs game. Yeah, he actually didn't even get into game 4 to begin with. Was he too intoxicated? No. Did he bring a live goat with him to this game? Yes, that was why. Yeah, Bill brought with him his pet goat for good luck. So after the staff said, no, you can't enter the 1945 World Series with a live goat, he then cursed the club over and over on the way out. What a guy. Saying the Cubs ain't gonna win no more, over and over again, and that was the game that they dropped the ball, so something kind of happened. The Detroit Tigers won and the curse of the Billy Goat kicked off, and it got so out of hand that come 1994, the Cubs had lost 12 games in a row, their worst home start in history, so Sam Sionis went to Wrigley Field, everybody was chanting to let the goat in, and then the Cubs won 5-2. I don't know. Humans in the 1700s were like, ah, that woman's cursed, she's a witch for sure, and then humans today are like, ah, that stadium's cursed, for sure cursed. We haven't changed, moral of the story, I don't know.
Number 10, Spaceballs. Over the course of decades, humans have begun to clog up the Earth's surrounding area with space junk. Defunct projects, satellites, broken or discarded pieces of spacecrafts. It will become a serious problem at some point, and it's beginning to show. There have been many instances now of strange metallic balls crashing into the ground and being found in multiple countries: Mexico, Spain, Vietnam, Namibia, Australia, and many others. They hurtle towards the Earth, and some have crashed a little too close for comfort. Most of these mysterious objects seem to just be auxiliary fuel tanks from satellites that were discarded or crashed nearby, and they fell off early. landing in a completely different place than was planned. But some of these, like the one in Mexico, still require more investigation as they don't match any of the parts that we would have expected to be entering our atmosphere. This one even has an antenna and reportedly fell from the sky while making strange noises, but was not accompanied by any fire, like a lot of debris entering the atmosphere would have. So where did these things come from then? Number 9. WTF. In 2013, the Catalina Sky Survey at the University of Arizona spotted an object in the night sky, and it seemed to have some weird properties. The object didn't move as though it was solid like rock, but it seemed to possibly be hollow, and it had a density of about 10% that of water, and it seemed to be about 6.5 feet in diameter. Large enough to house a person. But this didn't match any of the space junk that space agencies had been tracking for the previous years, and adding even more to the confusion, the object seemed to disappear from sight, and it was not seen again until 2 years later when it was officially given the name WT1190F, or WTF for short. Pretty fitting. Video and photos were taken of the object's re-entry into Earth's atmosphere, which was a scientific feat on its own, but the object was never recovered. It is assumed that it burned up from the immense heat of re-entry, but many people believe that it crashed into the ocean and whatever was inside was either captured or lies in wait at the bottom of the sea, like those UFOs NASA admits that they found. Remember those? That was crazy. Number 8. Struck by a space rock. Alright, we've got 2 stories here, and you can either think of them as the result of a curse, or karma, or cosmic coincidence, but either way, these 2 women had a bad day. In 2001, Lottie Williams was exercising in a park in Tulsa, Oklahoma, when she looked up and saw a great ball of fire in the air. It was a rocket coming back towards Earth. She watched it approach, and as it got larger in the sky, she expressed her worry to her friends, but then it broke up into pieces and it was no longer visible to her. A few moments later, she felt what she described as a tap on her shoulder, and then something fell to the ground. This small blackened piece of metal had fallen from the rocket and just grazed her, and it could have been a lot worse, but she walked away being the first person to be hit by man-made space debris. But another woman was not as lucky. On November 30th, 1954, Ann Hodges was napping in her Alabama home when a piece of meteorite crashed through her roof and struck her in the side. It left a 3-foot wide hole in her roof and also left a massive bruise on her thigh and hand where she was hit. Luckily, the damages were only surface level, and though she went to the hospital the next night, it was because of her stress, not the injury. But if the space rock had been a few inches to the side, Ann would not have lived to tell the tale as the first person to be struck by a meteorite. I'm not sure if she's cursed with extremely bad luck or has really good luck. I'll leave that up to you. Number 7. Skylab. Launched by NASA as the first American space station, Skylab was cursed with issues from the moment it launched. The station strapped to a Saturn V rocket sustained severe damage during its deployment, including the loss of the station's micrometeoroid shield and one of its main solar panels, requiring it to have the first ever repair to an object in space, which is pretty cool. But it was again hit with problems when one of the pieces destabilized from orbit earlier than expected and crashed back to Earth. But it doesn't stop there. Due to increased solar activity, Skylab actually ended up falling towards Earth a year earlier than it was supposed to. There was supposed to be a shuttle mission to boost it back into orbit, but the shuttle wasn't ready in time. In an international media frenzy, the Skylab crash was everywhere. People had shirts with targets, contests were made to bring pieces of the wreckage for cash prizes, and people waited for the show. Due to a 4% calculation error on re-entry, the station did not burn up as quickly as expected, and pieces fell into Australia only 300 miles from Perth in an almost completely unpopulated area. Man, talk about a crash and burn. These scientists missed the mark so many times it's impressive the thing even hit Earth. Number 6. 300 million year old machine part. In 2013, a Russian man named Dmitry was adding coal to a fire when he noticed something strange. A shiny piece of metal was sticking out of the rock, and when he broke open the piece of coal, he found what seemed to be a piece of a metal bar with teeth, like a piece of a gear. When analyzed, it was found to be made of aluminum with about 3% magnesium, an alloy that is not generally produced today. Not only that, but further examination shows machining marks, implying that it's a man-made piece, and it's similar to those that we may find in a modern microscope or other small machinery. But no one can explain how a seemingly man-made part appears in a piece of coal that was 300 million years old. So was this thing a remnant of a past unknown civilization? Maybe something from a time traveler or alien? One explanation is that it could have fallen to Earth from a meteorite all that time ago, but it wouldn't explain the fact that it seems man-made. This little hunk of metal continues to baffle scientists today. Number 5. Nuclear nuisance. The Cosmos 954 reconnaissance satellite launched by the Soviet Union in 1977 had some major issues. The launch went fine. Unlike Skylab, its deployment also went off without a hitch, and this long-term orbital satellite seemed like another mission success for the Soviet space program. It was meant to be circling the globe for years and years, but just 3 months later, the North American Aerospace Defense Command noticed the satellite making erratic maneuvers, changing the altitude of its orbit by up to 50 miles. And in secret meetings, the Soviet officials warned their US counterparts that they had lost control over the vehicle, and the system, which was intended to propel the spent nuclear reactor core into a safe disposal orbit, had failed. And just 4 months after its launch, it fell towards the Earth, right over Canada's Northwest Territories. The Soviets claimed that it had completely disintegrated upon re-entry, but that was not the case, as we discovered a 600-kilometer path of debris leading through the country. And a huge portion of it was radioactive because they failed to launch the reactor out. We Canadians began Operation Morning Light, a recovery effort that lasted over a year and for which we billed the Soviet Union $6 million, though they only ever paid us $3 million. Many small pieces of debris were collected, as well as 12 large portions of the satellite, only 2 of which were not radioactive. Number 4. Proof of panspermia. The theory of panspermia is that life did not naturally begin on Earth, but that it began with microbes stuck in space ice that fell to Earth on meteorites, and the amount of debate around this topic is huge, and we have a few examples that may just prove the theory. The Polonnaruwa meteorite was one that fell in Sri Lanka in 2012, and meteorites are always a good find, but this one was different. 12 days after it was witnessed falling through the sky, a scientist published a paper stating that after studying some electron micrographs, his team discovered fossilized diatoms, microscopic phytoplankton, inside the meteorite. In addition, his team of scientists reported in a separate article that they are certain that it is a meteorite that originated from a comet that also contained living diatoms. The microbes were remarkably similar to those found on Earth, leading to a debate on whether it was simply contaminated from the Earth's surface. But there is another example with even stronger proof of microscopic alien life. In 2018, a meteorite landed on a frozen lake in Michigan, and when it was examined, thousands of organic compounds that were formed billions of years ago were found. It helped that the quick recovery, along with the cold temperature, kept the water inside frozen for studying. Research is still being done, but this find has thrown the scientific world for a loop. Hopefully the organisms don't leave us with some alien curse or disease. Number 3. The Chelyabinsk Meteor. Many of us will remember the 2013 meteor that rocked the world. At 20 meters in diameter, it was the largest natural object to enter our atmosphere since the Tunguska event, which destroyed a wide, remote, forested, and very sparsely populated area of Serbia. The Chelyabinsk meteor also is the only meteor confirmed to have resulted in many injuries, though they were all from indirect causes. There are many videos of the event and they are truly terrifying, especially when you learn that the meteor was completely undetected until it entered our atmosphere, which caused worldwide panic. The flash as it began to burn up was brighter than the sun, and when it exploded midair, the energy output was equivalent to the atomic weapon used on Hiroshima, sending out a massive shockwave that damaged buildings and was felt and heard for hundreds of miles. All of the 1,500 people injured were hurt while running or from broken glass or other indirect factors of the meteor. There was even another meteor which was detected to have a close approach on the same day, which was 10 meters larger and flew by us only 16 hours later. Man, February 15th, 2013 was a busy day for meteors. Number 2. Oumuamua. Discovered by the University of Hawaii's Pan-STARRS 1 telescope in 2017, Oumuamua is the first known interstellar object to visit our solar system. It was originally classified as a comet, but there were no signs of cometary activity after we witnessed it slingshot past the sun at a blistering speed of 196,000 miles per hour, or 87.3 kilometers per second. It was briefly classified as an asteroid until new measurements found it was accelerating slightly, which is very strange for any interstellar body. This massive cigar-shaped object is nearly a quarter mile long, or 400 meters, and its elongated shape is unlike anything we've witnessed in our solar system. Observation has shown that it may have come from the star system of Vega, though with the speed it was moving, it would have taken over 300 million years to make the journey to our solar system, and Vega was nowhere near that position at that time, leading to further questions. Many scientists believe that this could actually be an alien superstructure, as its strange journey and acceleration are studied more and more. Paul Kotis, manager of the Center for Near-Earth Object Studies at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, said that it's a strange visitor from a faraway star system, shaped like nothing we've ever seen in our own solar system neighborhood. Whether it's just an interstellar asteroid or someone coming to see what's up with Earth, we may never know, as it's being launched away from us after making a slingshot maneuver around our sun, the angle and trajectory of which some use as proof as the object being controlled or even driven by something. And finally, we reach our number 1, the Hypatia Stone. The Hypatia Stone is one of the single greatest astronomical discoveries that we have ever made. Found in the Sahara Desert by Ali A. Barakat, this is no ordinary meteorite, but one that contains the remnants of a rare type of supernova. Some have even described it as a supernova in a bottle. Named after the ancient mathematician and astronomer Hypatia, who was the first female scholar in her field to have her life and accomplishments recorded, overcoming sexism in the process. Scientists are still learning more about its origins. It's believed that the stone was born in what is known as a Type 1a supernova, a rare kind of supernova where a dying star or white dwarf begins to leech energy off of a nearby star and regains energy in the process. These so-called vampire stars circle each other until the white dwarf has recovered enough energy to reignite the stellar reactions and explodes in a massive cloud of dust and pure energy, shooting things imbued with strange elements out into the ether. Measuring the metals found inside the stone is how we verified that it came from this kind of supernova, and that it crashed to Earth nearly 28 million years ago after being launched through space by the explosion. Having a supernova in our hands has helped us answer so many questions about the physics of space, but if you ask me, if there was one interstellar item that could have an alien curse, it's the rock that contains pieces of a rare supernova. Sounds like something an alien from Doctor Who would need to power their death machine or something.